a telling of the Passion story at the beginning of this Holy Week. One of the disciples, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said to them, "What will you give me if I betray Jesus to you?" They gave him 30 pieces of silver. From that moment, they began to look for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, Jesus' disciples came to him and said, "Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover meal?" So Jesus said to them, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will eat the Passover with my disciples at your house.' And so the disciples went and did as he directed, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, Jesus took his place with the 12. And while they were eating, he said to them, 'Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me.' They began to be deeply distressed and to say to him, one after another, 'Surely not I, Lord.' He said to them, 'One who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born.' Then Judas, the one who betrayed him, said, 'Surely not I, Rabbi.' Jesus said to him, 'You have said so.' Then, while they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he said, 'This is my blood of the covenant, poured out for many for the forgiveness of sin. Truly I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.' When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, 'I tell you, all of you will become deserters because of me this night.' But Peter said to him, 'Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you.' But Jesus said to him, 'Truly I tell you, this very night before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. But Peter said to him, 'Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you.' And so said all his disciples. Then Jesus went with his disciples to Gethsemane, and he said to them, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.' And he brought with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be deeply grieved and agitated. He said to them, 'I am deeply grieved, even unto death. Sit here and stay awake with me.' And going a little farther, he fell onto his knees and prayed, 'My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want.' Then he came and found his disciples sleeping, and he said to Peter, 'So could you not stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you do not come into the time of trial. For the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And so he went and prayed for a second time. "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." And then he came again and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy. And again he went for a third time and prayed, saying the same words. And then he came and said to his disciples, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. And with him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Then Jesus said to him, "Friend, my friend, do what you are here to do." And then they laid hands on Jesus and they arrested him. But one of them, standing by Jesus, put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for those who take up the sword will perish by the sword." And then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house all the chief priests and the elders had gathered. Now Peter followed Jesus at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside, he went and sat with the guards so that he may see how this would end. And now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last, 2 came forward who said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest got up and said to Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus remained silent. So the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us, are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But now I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He blasphemes. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" And they answered, "He deserves death." And then they spat in his face, struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy, O Messiah, who is it that struck you?" When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned. He repented, and he took the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. And he said, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they said to him, what is that to us? See to it yourself. Then throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, Judas went out and he hung himself. But the chief priests, taking up the silver, said, it is not lawful to put this into the treasury, for this is blood money. After conferring together, they bought the potter's field to bury foreigners. For this reason, to this very day, that field is called the field of blood. The next morning, the chief priests and the elders conferred together about Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, you say so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, do you not hear how many accusations they make against you? But still Jesus remained silent, so that Pilate was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. Now at that time, there was a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So Pilate asked them, whom do you want me to release for you? Jesus Barabbas, a Jesus who is called the Messiah. For he knew that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, have nothing to do with this innocent man, for I have suffered today greatly because of a dream about him. Now the chief priests and the elders had persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, who do you want me to release for you? And they answered, Barabbas. So Pilate asked them, then what do you want me to do with the one Jesus who is called the Messiah? They answered, let him be crucified. Pilate said to them, why? What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, let him be crucified. Then Pilate, seeing that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, took water, and before the whole crowd he washed his hands, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. And then the whole crowd said, his blood be on us and on our children. So they released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, Pilate handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him of his clothes and put a scarlet robe on him. Then after twisting thorns into a crown, they placed it on his head. They put a reed in his hand, and they knelt before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! Then they spat on him, and they took the reed, and they struck him on the head. And after mocking him, they stripped him of the scarlet robe, and they put his own clothes on him. Then they led Jesus away to crucify him.